Last episode, we went over the events that led to the catastrophic demise of the Miami Marlins franchise and what's led up to this point in the franchise's history. The Marlins were able to sign 25 big league players to a league minimum deal worth the league minimum salary, with the goal of having players that will put fans in the stands so this team can earn some money to eventually get back on their feet. And with that, let's meet your 2019 Miami Marlins. And before we go over the players and their ratings, I do want to throw out a disclaimer because in MLB The Show 19 franchise, players' overalls are greatly affected by their morale. And a lot of these players are happy just for the sole fact they're on an MLB team. So pretty much every player you see in their overall is about 2 or 3 overall higher than what it actually is. And it's going to change depending on how happy they are with their current situation and how much playing time they get. But starting off at catcher, we have big old Pablo Sandoval, the Panda, at a 69 overall. This man's a natural third baseman but has played catcher before in the Giants organization, so he is going to be our starting catcher here in Miami to start off this franchise. He's coming in at a 69 overall, has 62 power, 61 contact, 53 powers versus lefties, 66 plate vision. His fielding is pretty bad at 46, a decent arm though. This man's a former World Series MVP, but ever since he signed that big deal with the Boston Red Sox, he's pretty much been useless and now is back as a backup player. And before signing with the Marlins, was a backup with the Giants organization once again, but he wanted some playing time, and he signed a league minimum deal here with Miami. And at first base, we have a couple of options. First of all, we have Mark Reynolds, who was one of the highest overall players on this team at a 74 overall. This guy's primarily known as a power hitter. He's hit a ton of bombs in his career, but he also strikes out a lot. And with that, the only thing he can find out there in the major leagues is minor league deal, but he wants some major league playing time, and he's going to get that here in Miami. But his competition is another slugger himself, Ryan Howard, at a 62 overall. The 39-year-old's getting up there in age, but this guy, he's a future Hall of Famer, but he wants to stay in the big leagues. And over the past 4 or so seasons has been in and out of the minor league organizations of multiple ball clubs, wanting one last chance at the show, and he is going to get it today. But he does come in at a 62 overall, has 77 powers versus righty speeds, not that great, fielding not that great, but depending on how he does in spring training, he might be our starter. And at second base, a familiar face for you football fans, Russell Wilson is giving baseball one last shot. Baseball has been on his heart ever since his career at NC State, and today he gets his shot at the big leagues. Many think this is just a publicity stunt, and heck yeah it is, dog, because we need to sell tickets here in Miami. But Russell Wilson is going to be your starting second baseman here in Miami. Russell Wilson has been drafted twice in his career to Major League Baseball clubs, in 2007 to the Baltimore Orioles, and once again in 2010. In 2010, he went to the Colorado Rockies spring training, didn't do too well, ended up transferring, going to Wisconsin to play football, and the rest is history. Is a Super Bowl champion, but his whole entire life he had a longing in his heart that he wanted to be a pro baseball player, and today he gets it as he's going to be a 2-sport athlete now for the Miami Marlins and the Seattle Seahawks. Now at third base, we have a familiar face for you baseball fans, Chris Davis, who is primarily known as a power hitter for the Baltimore Orioles. Normally a first baseman, but has played a little bit of third base, and to fit everybody into the lineup that we could possibly get, he's going to play third base for us. But Chris Davis, a former 50 home run a year player, signed a massive, almost $200 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles, and since then has been awful, batting under 200 in some seasons, and as a $20 million per year player, got benched by the Baltimore Orioles after a 0-for-50 start to the last season. And Chris Davis said, screw it, I got my money, I want to start elsewhere. As Chris Davis and the Orioles mutually terminated their contract to allow him to sign for us here in Miami to give him another shot. He comes in at a 69 overall with 80 power versus righty, so hopefully he doesn't strike out 300 times a season for us and can at least hit 20 to 30 home runs because we need it. At least we'll put some fans in the stands. And possibly the most controversial player on the entirety of our roster, but once again solely to sell tickets, our starting shortstop, Johnny Manziel, who comes in at a 60 overall. Johnny Manziel was actually drafted by the San Diego Padres in the 2014 MLB draft and obviously didn't play pro baseball. But since his professional football career has been shut down after stints in the CFL and the AAF, he wants one more shot at a big-time sport, and that's baseball, as he gets his shot today with the Miami Marlins. Comes in at a 60 overall, which isn't too bad. Pretty fast with 75 speed, but aside from that, it's pretty average. And a guy that was supposed to play baseball at Texas A&M but didn't, hasn't played since high school. Gonna see how Johnny's gonna do in the majors. Now in left field, we have Willie Mo Pena, the big slugger, 37 years old, coming in at a 66 overall. Pretty much this guy brings to the table exactly what Chris Davis does. He hits bombs. He has 90 power versus lefties and 84 power versus righties. But that's about it. You can expect about 200 strikeouts a season from Mr. Willie Mo Pena, and he's not that great out in the field either. This man was primarily known as a home run hitter in a stint with the majors through many different ball clubs. Ended up playing a little bit of baseball in Japan. At 37, still wants a shot, and he's gonna get it today. Now at center field, we have multiple options, and some of these guys could obviously play right field or left field too, but we have 4 guys coming in at center field. Grady Sizemore, one of the higher overall players on this team, at a 72 overall with 81 speed, 81 stealing, and some decent stats in comparison to the rest of the team. Grady Sizemore, a guy that was a perennial all-star, ended up through many injuries, kind of fading away later on in his career, but wants another shot today, and with the Marlins, we're going to give him that shot. Another player, Rocco Baldelli, 37-year-old. He decided to manage a little bit in the major leagues, but immediately he knew managing wasn't for him. He wanted one last chance at the show. A guy that had so much promise, but a guy whose career was ruined by injuries and was actually diagnosed with a disease that was the cause of most of the injuries that he had. But he heard that he has a chance with the Marlins, and he took that chance. At a 61 overall, comes in as a kind of decent all-around player. And next, Rick Gankeel. Rick Gankeel coming in. He's almost 40 years old, one of the older players on the team, but he doesn't freaking care. He comes in at a 59 overall. We didn't know if he wanted to come and pitch or hit. He decided to play in the outfield as he wants to try to hit some home runs here in Miami with Rick Gankeel, one of the greatest comeback stories in Major League history. He didn't play baseball for a long time after failing as a pitcher, came with the Cardinals, hit some bombs for a few years, but after that faded away a little bit. But he's not fading away now as he comes in as a Marlin, trying to do some work. And last but not least, Kyler Murray, the second and final two-sport athlete on this Miami Marlins team. Kyler Murray, a high draft pick by the Oakland A's, decided to stay out of the league as he wanted to try to pursue a career in the NFL, but he learned of this opportunity with the Marlins. He knows that we can accommodate him to his needs, whatever he wants, so he can remain a two-sport athlete, as Kyler Murray can play multiple positions. He can play in the outfield, or he can play all in the infield. So Kyler Murray, another reject here in Miami. And last 2 players in the outfield, Timothy Tebow. We all know the story of Mr. Tebow. He's one of the players that are most greatly boosted by the player morale. He's up to a 71 overall with some pretty good stats all around. 31 years old, was formerly in the New York Mets organization, but was taking a little bit too long for him to get called up, as now he is a Marlin. Talk about filling those seats. Tim Tebow is going to be a for sure starter for us here in Miami. And last but not least, in the outfield, and the last positional player, Jeff Francoeur, another player who showed so much promise, had one of the strongest arms in MLB history. But once again, a player that's over time just faded away and didn't fulfill his promise, but he's a big name, and he's a name that's going to sell some seats, as he does come in at a 63 overall. Now into the bullpen, starting off with our closer, Jake Peavy, one of the highest players on the team at a 71 overall. This guy's a 2-time World Series champion. Also a man from RBT's hometown. A guy that throughout his career was primarily a starter, but it's going to be a closer for your Miami Marlins and for your rejects. Jake Peavy's a man who's been open about wanting to return to the MLB, and he gets it with your Marlins. Now on to Clay Buchholz in the bullpen. Also primarily was a starter in his career, but is going to help out in the Miami Marlins bullpen. The highest overall pitcher on the team, coming in at a 73 overall with some pretty good stats. Clay Buchholz, who's a player that just never reached his potential. Had a couple of incredible seasons, but had just continued to die down later on in his career. He's up to 34 years old now, and now is in the Phillies organization in the minor leagues, but now gets another major league shot with your Miami Marlins. Next, we have Matt Bush coming in at a 59 overall, considered by many to be the biggest bust in the history of professional baseball. Was the first overall pick in the 2004 MLB draft and just never solidified himself as an MLB player. Now is currently in the minor league system of the Texas Rangers, but this man wants a shot. He's still 33 years old, has a ton of time left in the MLB, and he wants his shot to silence the critics, to silence the haters, as he gets his shot one last time in the MLB. Next, Daniel Bard, another player that never fulfilled his promise, was a pitcher in the Boston Red Sox organization, and actually was pretty successful for a while, and then all of a sudden forgot how to throw a strike. ERA skyrocketed, and has not been the same ever since. After pitching for the Red Sox, bounced around a couple minor league organizations, just never fulfilled that promise, and hopefully he's going to fulfill that promise with your Miami Marlins. And next, Hayden Roberts. We all know Mr. Roberts as the man who hit me, slapping the freaking arm. Many of you wanted to see him in the Miami Marlins organization for this reject series, and you're gonna get him. He's gonna serve as a setup man for your rejects. Currently, he's a member of the Lancaster Jethawks, the Advanced 8 club of the Colorado Rockies organization. We purchased his contract as now he gets his shot in the big leagues. As the last two relievers for your Miami Marlins is Dinesh Patel and Riku Singh, the lowest overall players on the whole entire team at a 51 overall and 49 overall. And if you guys don't know who these guys are, you must have never seen the movie $1 Million Arm. These guys won a competition held in India to find the individual that could throw the fastest pitch in all of India. And these guys were the winner and runner-up. They got a little shot in the minor league organizations of a couple of ball clubs, but never amounted to anything. But they have their shot today in this season with your Miami Marlins. Now on to the starters and the potential starting rotation. Starting off, Tim Lincecum in at a 70 overall, a former Cy Young winner, and just like many of the other players in this organization, was great one day, the next sucked. Crazy how a guy who once was so good could hit such a low, but at 34 years old still has a little time left, and hopefully he can prove to be at least a little bit effective here in Miami. Next, Mark Prior, one of the saddest stories in the history of the MLB, and one of the biggest disappointments. Mark Prior, as a young buck with the Chicago Cubs, was an absolute menace, was one of the deadliest pitchers you'd ever see, and he was so young. This man got injured so many times that he just never amounted to anything, but he has a little bit of time left, 38 years old, and for the first time in almost a decade and a half will be pitching in the major leagues with your Miami Marlins. Next, Homer Bailey, a pitcher who once again was supposed to amount to a lot, but didn't. Actually had a little bit of success recently with the Kansas City Royals, and probably is the player on this roster that had the most recent success. But after he found himself back down in AAA, he told himself he wanted to be a part of this project here in Miami, as he wanted to be solidified in a major league starting rotation. And he gets that here in Miami. Probably couldn't have got it elsewhere. Next, we have Daisuke Matsuzaka, who comes in at a 62 overall. Almost like every other player in this organization, had so much promise after coming over from Japan with the Boston Red Sox, signed a massive contract and looked like he was going to be pretty good. But once again, like many other players, got injured and never bounced back from it. And at 38 years old, gets one final chance to become that pitcher that many expected him to be. And last but not least, a player who used to be a Miami Marlin himself, Dontrelle Willis. Early on in his career as a young buck was so effective, but later on in his career started to lose control of his fastball, lose control of his pitches, and just like that found himself out of the league. But he heard about his former club, the Miami Marlins, and what they're doing, and even at 37 years old, wants a piece of the pie, wants a piece of the Miami Marlins pie. He wants the whole fin, as he wants to be in the starting rotation and wants to be a part of a special project here in Miami. Now, for everybody who is going to be asking, yes, we will hold tryouts for your Miami Marlins in this series. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to play 3 games per episode, and we're going to be playing it month by month. Each month is going to be its own episode, as there is going to have to be a lot of simulation. But the good thing about that is, since it's going to be a whole entire month, the tryout player for that episode will get a whole month worth of work. and if he doesn't make the team, we don't necessarily have to cut him. We can just send him back down to AAA. So every player we do try out will more than likely be a part of this organization for a long time. Now, the upgrade system in this series, we're going to have multiple awards handed out each and every episode. Number 1, we're going to have a Hitter of the Month award that will get a +4 overall boost, which will grant that recipient a +4 to their overall. Also, there will be a co-hitter of the month that will be awarded with a +2 boost to their overall at the end of the month. Same thing with pitcher. There'll be a pitcher of the month that'll get a +4 boost to their overall. Same thing, co-pitcher of the month, that will give them a +2 boost to their overall. And that will all be voted on by the fans. And in this first season, we're only going to be allocated enough funds to be able to sign one free agent. If we win less than 60 games, that free agent can only be anywhere from a 70 to 75 overall. If we win over 60 games, we can sign anybody from a 75 to 80 overall. So nothing too crazy, nothing too special, and those limits will be relinquished and will be relieved whenever we do eventually make the playoffs, which is going to be a long time. I know in the other Reject series, we made the playoffs and won the Super Bowl rather soon, but this series, since there's going to be so many simulated games, it's going to take a long time. And guys, buckle in, get ready for this project. Because Miami, it's starting, we're here, but it's going to take a long freaking time. So hopefully guys are excited for it. And if you are, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Turn on the notification bell if you haven't. See you guys next time. For the rest of your day. God bless and peace.